Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about how I parent without yelling and how I get my kids to actually listen without yelling at them. This is a topic I feel quite passionate about, and I get a lot of questions on this channel about how I am a calm parent or how I discipline the kids. So I thought that this would be a good video topic, hopefully give you some tips and ideas. Obviously, I'm not an expert. I am literally just a mum of three. My eldest is only 8 years old, so I'm sure I have a lot more tests to come in the world of parenting as they get older, but these are things that I've done up until now, and I'm not saying that I'm a perfect parent. I have yelled at my kids in the past. They seem to know how to push me to the very brink, but I am mindful of it, and these are things that I do to not yell at my kids. So I hope you really enjoy this video. There are various different reasons why we might yell at our children, but I think for some of us, we yell at our kids just because when we were growing up, we were yelled at, and now that we have kids of our own, we think that that's how you speak to kids, and that is completely wrong in my opinion. I grew up with a parent who would yell, who would fly off the handle, who would be very unpredictable, and on the other side, I had a parent that wouldn't yell, that was calm, that had respect for me, and that would talk to me, and ultimately I know who I had more respect for as a child and the type of parent that I would like to be. So yes, I hope you like these tips. So my first tip is to work on your serious voice instead of yelling at your children. As soon as we yell at our kids, it immediately puts them on edge, and it almost gives them permission to yell back at us, and also can teach them that it's acceptable to yell at people when they're angry, and obviously you don't want them going to nursery and just starting to yell at people. So instead of doing that, try and have a serious voice. I actually found this quite difficult because naturally I have quite a high voice and I'm quite a smiley person, but if they do something wrong and you talk to them in a serious, calm voice and talk to them about why they did it, it can be really effective. My next tip is to react calmly to your children and to put yourself in timeout if you need to. If you've had a very stressful day and you feel like you're about to blow, why not take yourself away from the situation? As long as they're safe, you could go to the bathroom, breathe, count to 20, just take a minute. And in my experience, this freaks the kids out more than anything. They're like, oh my gosh, like what's mom doing? But you can be very calm, or a really good example is when you're driving and you're trying to concentrate on the road, but the kids are fighting, they're asking for snacks, they're asking for a song on the radio, he looked out his window, you know how it is. Rather than shouting and yelling, because that is so tempting in a car, if you can, pull over, turn to them and say, we're not carrying on with this journey until you stop fighting. And that is a very calm way to deal with the situation, but we're just not going to move. We're not going to go to this party or play date or wherever you're off to until you stop. So you're making a massive statement, but you're not having to yell and shout and scream at the kids, which then you feel guilty about anyway. They get upset, like it's just a terrible mess. My next tip is to set boundaries for your kids. I'm sure that most parents will know that kids absolutely need clear boundaries to feel safe, and that there need to be consequences if they push the boundaries or if they don't follow the rules. And when I'm disciplining my kids at this young age, I always think to myself, I'm actually doing it for them when they're older or when they're teenagers. If I don't follow through on punishments and things that I say are going to happen while they're at this age, then when they're older and I tell them to be in at 11 p.m. at night, they might just think to themselves, well, do you know what? Mom never actually does what she says. Mom never follows through on punishments. I'm not going to come in at 11 p.m. So I feel like it's so important to get those small things right now so that you have the respect later on in life as well. And if you don't want to nag your kids all the time, I've talked about it before, but we love using chore charts in this house. I've made a whole video about it, so I'll link that down below. But I found that I was nagging the kids all the time to do their chores, and then I would nag and nag and nag and then yell. Whereas when they have chores that they need to do on a chore chart, it's just their responsibility. So if they ask me if they can have the iPad or if they can watch a TV show, I'm just like, have you done your chores? it's like not me, it's not coming from me. It's like, you have a job to do on your chore chart. So if you've done that, yes, of course you can. But if you haven't, then you haven't. So I found that that's actually really helped me to not nag them. I also really like the 3 strikes and you're out rule. If we're ever at a play date or out at a party and one of my children misbehaves, maybe they don't share a toy, instead of just shouting, "You share," you can actually go up to them and say, "Listen, you've got 3 strikes. You've just had 1 strike because you didn't share that toy. But if you do it again twice, we're gonna have to go." And you can just be really calm about it. And if they, this is the hardest bit, if they do the 3 strikes, you have to follow through. You have to be willing to collect all your things, leave all your mummy friends and go to teach them a lesson, just so that they know that you are serious. The next tip is to think about your kids' feelings before you yell at them. If you can, just think, it's actually really difficult to be a little kid. They've got all these huge emotions and they don't really understand them yet, and they're just trying to make sense of all of this. So if you can, talk to them about a situation, that can really help. Maybe even give them a hug. It's not that you want to reward any bad behavior, but there might be something behind why they're acting the way that they have. Like, they might be really embarrassed. It's also worth saying, you know, you need to think about, have their basic needs been met that day? Are they tired? Are they hungry? Are they coming down with something? I mean, sometimes I make excuses for my kids, yes, but there might be another reason, and if you were just to yell at them, it might be the wrong thing to do. And on that note, another tip is to talk to your kids. As mine are getting older, I'm finding it so much easier to reason with my kids. For example, the other day I asked my eldest to do his homework and he was like, "Nope, don't want to do it." And I was like, oh, okay, come and have a chat with me. Rather than just yelling at him, "You'll do it because I said so," I was like, come and talk to me. And even though he was eye rolling, I was like, look, what's going to happen if you don't do your homework? And he was like, well, I'm not going to get a prize at the end of the term, because basically he has to do all his homework and then they get like a badge at the end of the term. So I was like, okay, and how's it going to make you feel when you don't get called up in assembly and you don't get your badge? You're one of the few that just hasn't done their homework. And he was like, it's going to make me feel bad. And I was like, yeah. So do you want to do your homework, or do you want to have that feeling? And he was like, okay, I'll do my homework. But just by like talking to him about why I'm actually asking him to do his homework, just made him understand it, and just, yeah, stopped me from yelling and made him do it. Another tip is to think about if there are particular times in the day when you're more likely to yell. It might be when you're getting everyone out of the house in the morning, or maybe in the car, or maybe at dinner time when everyone is tired and getting really hungry. Think about if those are like when you yell, and then anything you can do to make those times less stressful. Maybe get everything ready the night before so that the mornings are smoother. Maybe use your slow cooker more so that dinner is just always ready for when everyone's starving. Just doing little things like that can just help as well. And if you do yell at your children, I mean, we've probably all done it, but if you do, then you can own up to it and apologize. Maybe when things have calmed down, you could say to your children, "I'm sorry, Mummy yelled. It was because of this, but it was the wrong thing to do, and I'm so sorry. I'm going to try not to do it in the future," because then you're just teaching your children that that's not really how we talk to each other, and that's not how you want them to talk to people. And I think with this whole video, all I'm trying to say is that we should speak to our children with respect. I saw a quote that said that the voice that we speak to our children with becomes their inner voice. So you want it to be like this really positive and encouraging voice. And I just think, you know, we wouldn't speak to our colleagues or our friends or like people just in the street sometimes the way that people speak to their children. So we should just respect them, because we actually love them more than anyone, and they're just people like us. And although we're trying to teach them and raise them, we can do it with love and respect. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I hope that's not too cheesy. But I just know from personal experience growing up with my stepdad was very like wanting power and always shouting and yelling. Like I never forget, he had this real thing about like rinsing plates before you put them in the dishwasher, and if they weren't rinsed enough he'd like freak out. And I remember once I didn't rinse a plate and he just took it out of the dishwasher and was like, "You didn't rinse this plate," and just smashed it against a wall. And that never made me think, I never had more respect for him. He never got more power from it. If anything, I just thought he was a complete idiot. So I guess, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just think, you know, they're the most important people to us, so we should just talk to them with respect. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I know I went off on a few tangents, but I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys!